It is almost worthless, says the buyer as he negotiates the price. But when he goes away, he boasts about his bargain. Proverbs 20 verse 14. Hello. This is Talking in Circles. I am your host, Fumi Richard. Hey, welcome back. How you doing? I was about to say it's been a minute, but then it's actually not been a minute. I'm so excited to say this, but we've been quite consistent. We've been really consistent, to be honest. We have 2 episodes in the last couple of weeks, and you should totally go listen to them. One is Christianity in the workplace, and then there's Comparison is a Thief of Time. We've basically been doing a bit of conversation regarding being of a certain faith in the workplace. Of course, if you're of a different belief or different faith, it might also, because some of this, one thing that is so funny about religiosity and religions generally is that so much of these religions have basically the same moral principles. So if you're of a different faith, I think it might be worth you listening to it, regardless of whatever faith you may be. However, of course, my belief is my belief, and I do believe that's 3 beliefs in one sentence. Anyway, I do have the constant belief that certain principles need to be guarded and need to be held fast in the work that we are doing. Anyway, before I go all preachy on you, this is a new episode, and so if you haven't listened to previous episode, oh my gosh, if you haven't listened to previous episodes that we have recently published, you should go ahead and listen to them. It's as honest as it comes. Definitely go ahead. It's available on any platform that podcasts are available: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker, Anchor, all of these platforms. So please go ahead, listen, and let me know your thoughts. Now to today's episode, we are talking about honesty in the marketplace. Let's first of all, honesty in the marketplace is not necessarily just in the marketplace, or if you go to a market, or you go to a supermarket, or you go to anywhere. It cuts across basically anywhere that you earn a living, or someone earns a living and then you go ahead to buy a product or service from. So that is the honesty in the marketplace in actual fact. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, now let's talk about false words. So if you've ever gone to if you're probably so particular about sustainability and sometimes getting the best quality for lesser price, you've probably bought thrift items. And whenever you go for a thrift item, you probably, if it's not a store, if it's an actual if it's an African store, most times there's an opportunity to haggle prices. Of course, it differs in certain other areas, especially if you're buying in wholesale and all of that. But if you're buying in an African store and you go to where the bills are basically gotten and where they basically just arrived, you would have an opportunity to haggle prices. And sometimes if you're haggling a price, maybe you would normally say, oh, maybe the seller would tell you, oh yeah, I bought this for $70, and you, based on your understanding and probably a bit of window shopping you've done, you'd probably tell the buyer, no, it's not worth $70. It's actually worth $20, or depending on how you want to stretch that. Normally my go-to thing is if a seller tells me $50 for something, I slash it by half. So depending, some people might also have like their own way or mathematics to doing that, but sometimes you wonder, like, are you supposed to be haggling the prices? Of course, if you go into a supermarket or a supermart or anything like that, most times you don't get to haggle the prices. At the price tags are just there, and you just buy it exactly at the price that basically you saw it for. So, but when you're in an open store, there's usually the opportunity to haggle. And when you're saying, oh, you saw it in the other place for $20, when in actual fact you may not have actually seen it in the other place for $20, and you're just trying to get a good bargain, you would know that you're actually using false words. And it's just the same if I was working with a client, I would want the best deal for the client. And in wanting the best deal for the client, most times I would most likely say, if I'm working with a supplier, I would most likely bargain and go back and forth with the supplier to make sure that the client gets something within their budget that works for me as part of an agency, and also the client. And we may go back and forth, it might not be convenient, but I would still keep my head up and keep fighting for that price. And that's just an example in terms of client and then open shop buying and all of that. Haggling involved. I'm Nigerian, for heaven's sake. Pardon my French. But it is most ideal that you let me bargain. And sometimes some businesses would actually go as far as telling you that, oh yeah, it's like I've said my own price. You call your own price. There's some I've been in some Nigerian shops where they actually say that, and even some shops that are not even Nigerian. And it's usually that kind of thing. So, but before I go too far, I've gone far. I've really gone far. So, but there's this example of Simon Sinek that I wanted to give, and this talks about not just in terms of the honesty in the actual marketplace of when you're haggling prices, but also the honesty in terms of creating an environment that thrives, or a workplace that thrives on honesty. And of course, Simon Sinek is the author, writer, is a brilliant mind. And one of the things that gets that has made him very popular in my mind, so to speak, is also the fact that he has ADHD. So he can be very abrupt. And one of the things, as also somebody who lives with ADHD, I can tend to be very abrupt. So being very abrupt, it doesn't allow me the opportunity to sit down and concoct a lie. And I think that's also the same with him. So most times he's basically built off his business of the honesty of it. And there was a situation one time in his office, I heard him talking about it, that his assistant, he was supposed to be at a meeting, and then somehow he wasn't there, and his assistant, trying to save the business and all of that and save face, basically said that he had been caught up with an emergency, something like that. And when he got in, he realized what had happened, because he was basically building the business on the principles of honesty. So it was such a funny thing that he would erroneously, whatever faults or whatever thing had led to that, had actually, in his own way, forced his assistant to lie. Of course, the assistant could have as well said, I don't know where my boss is, and I don't know where he is and when he's going to come in. But in actual fact, that just seemed very unprofessional. However, he didn't now know how to face his assistant when his assistant came, when he got back, and he now had to tell the assistant that, oh, yeah, I understand why this happened, and I'm sorry that you had to be in that position where you had to lie. However, please, going forward, let's not do this again. I'll try my best to be available if you set something up, but please, let's just not do this again, because I'm trying to build an environment that is based on truth. And it got me thinking how sometimes it's not even just you as a person, but it's also the CEO. If you're a CEO and you're a Christian, and okay, the basis of this gist is also the back basis of this gist is the fact that I'm now rediscovering my Christianity. I said that wrong. I'm rediscovering my spirituality, and in rediscovering my spirituality and the faith that I have hitherto held, I have been feeling the need to be a bit more honest in the workplace. But how much honesty is the right honesty? Because it also poses the question, if you're Christian and you're a believer, because you can be Christian and not really be a believer, but if you're a believer in the workplace, how much honesty can you create in a work environment such that it works? I mean, I feel like it's easier when it's a peer-to-peer arrangement. You can be honest to your colleagues. You probably see all of the shenanigans of being honest because you don't have to really hide so much from your colleagues. But when it comes to you reporting to your colleague, to your CEO or your line manager, how much honesty can you actually really show? Then when you're also dealing with clients, because sometimes clients have amazing, and I kid you not, amazing expectations that if you look at it realistically, it doesn't match the time frame that they're expecting. It doesn't match because as an agency or as a consultancy, as a firm, you of course have to charge per time in terms of what the deliverables are to the client. So if you're really checking it according to that, you'd see that this thing is not adding up. It's not adding up. But then if you've worked with Indian clients as a freelancer, you probably have the idea of this, and how sometimes they will tell you that, oh, I just need a page for something just to give me an idea on this. And in actual fact, they expect you to deliver XYZ on that page and the back page and subsection and all of that. So it's that kind of thing where managing client expectations, how honest can you be? And I think it also boils down to integrity of the business. But however, I'm curious how people manage it. For me, I know that it's a new kind of thing. It's not new exactly because I've been Christian, I've been a believer for a long time. I just haven't been actively practicing it in a while, about a year or so. If you have listened to previous episodes, you already have the gist of that. But for me now, working to actively bring that into my workplace, I tend to wonder how effective is that honesty, and why that honesty should actually be in the conversation. So I think that's what I'm curious about. If you could let me know your thoughts, let me know what you're thinking, and let's have a conversation about this. Please drop a comment. And if I feel like this particular episode is here and there, but if you give it a good listen, I'm sure you get the gist of it. And to drop a feedback or drop comments, please drop a comment freely, no holds barred. And then you could also drop me an email at funmiobeze@gmail.com, or reach out to me anywhere on any social media at Funmi_Richards. I'm really glad and always glad to speak with you and to know that you're a TIC pod listener. So, till I come your way another time, this has been the Talking in Circles podcast with Funmi Richards. Ciao.